My parents said they couldn't afford my books. That's what they told me, standing in our kitchen looking me dead in the eye while I held the list of required textbooks for my senior year, $340 total. $340 that would decide whether I could keep up in my AP classes, whether I could study for the SATs, whether I had any shot at the scholarships I desperately needed. We just don't have it right now, Amber. But here's the thing about lies, they don't just hurt when you hear them, they destroy you when you discover the truth hiding behind them. And I'm about to tell you exactly what that truth was. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever wondered why you weren't enough, please hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me I'm not alone in this, because some days I still wonder if I imagined the whole thing, but I didn't. And your support means everything as I finally share what happened. It was August 2019, 3 weeks before my senior year started. I'd worked all summer at Morrison's Diner, pulling double shifts on weekends, smelling like grease and coffee, my feet aching so badly some nights I could barely walk to my car. I'd saved $890, every single dollar earmarked for college applications, SAT prep courses, and yes, textbooks. But then Mom got sick. Not sick like a cold, sick like emergency room at 2 a.m., sick like surgical procedures and specialist appointments and medications that insurance only partially covered. Real sick, scary sick. I gave them $600 without hesitation. For Mom, I said, pressing the cash into Dad's hand, whatever she needs. Dad's eyes got wet. He pulled me into a hug that lasted so long I thought he might never let go. You're a good daughter, Amber, the best will pay you back, I promise. I believed him. I had $290 left, it would be tight but I could make it work. I'd already paid for 2 AP exam fees. The textbooks were $340, I just needed $50 more and I could pick up extra shifts. Then my car died. Completely, timing belt snapped. The mechanic, a kind older man named Jerry who'd known our family for years, looked at me with genuine sympathy. $380 to fix it properly. I can try to find used parts, maybe get it down to $290. I used every dollar I had left. Which meant I had nothing for books, nothing for applications, nothing for the SAT prep course that started in 2 weeks. But I wasn't worried, not really, because I'd helped my family, because Mom was getting better, because Dad promised we'd figure it out together. I made the list of textbooks I needed, highlighting the ones that were absolutely essential versus the ones I could maybe share or find at the library. I calculated it down to the penny, did the math 3 times to make sure. $340. I found Dad in the garage on a Saturday afternoon. He was organizing his tools, something he did when he was stressed. Mom was resting upstairs. My brother Ethan was out, always out somewhere doing something with someone. Dad, can we talk? He turned and I saw it immediately, that flicker of something in his eyes, not quite guilt, not quite avoidance, something in between. What's up, sweetheart? I handed him the list. These are my textbooks for senior year. I did the math, and if I buy used for everything except the AP Calc book, which I absolutely need new because it comes with the online access code, it's $340. He took the list but didn't look at it, just held it. I know I gave you the $600 for Mom, I continued, speaking faster now because that look in his eyes was making my stomach turn. And I know that was my choice and I don't regret it at all. But I was hoping maybe we could work something out. I could do extra chores, or maybe you could pay half now and half in a month when I get paid again, or I could. Amber, his voice was soft, too soft, we can't. The garage suddenly felt too small. Can't what? We can't afford it right now with your mother's medical bills and the mortgage and everything else. He set the list down on his workbench without even glancing at the total. We just don't have it. I stood there trying to process his words, trying to make them make sense. But Dad, these aren't optional. I need these books for school, for my classes. I'm taking 4 AP courses this year, and if I don't have the materials, you'll have to find another way. He turned back to his tools, organizing wrenches by size, not looking at me. Talk to your teachers, see if you can borrow books from classmates. You're resourceful, you'll figure it out. Something cold settled in my chest. I gave you $600. And we appreciated it, your mother appreciated it. I'm not asking for that money back, I'm asking for help with $340 for my education. Amber, I said we don't have it. His voice had an edge now, sharper, final. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is right now, we're barely keeping our heads above water. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry. I wanted to ask him how we could be that broke, how it was possible that $340 was impossible when we had a 4-bedroom house and 2 cars and cable TV and. But I didn't because Mom was sick and I wasn't a monster. Okay, I whispered, I'll figure it out. I left the garage before he could see me cry. For 2 days I brainstormed solutions. I called the school. They had a limited number of textbook vouchers for students with financial need, but they were already distributed. I could be put on a waiting list. I checked online for PDF versions, found a few but not all, and the quality was terrible. Scanned pages with notes written in the margins, some pages missing entirely. I asked my guidance counselor about payment plans. She gave me a sympathetic look and a phone number for a hardship fund that had a 6-week application process. School started in 3 weeks. I picked up 2 more shifts at the diner, calculated that if I worked every single day until school started, didn't spend a penny on anything else, I could earn maybe $400. It would be enough, barely, but enough. My feet ached constantly. I started getting stress headaches that made my vision blur, but I kept going because what choice did I have? Then Sunday happened. I was coming home from the early shift at Morrison's, exhausted and smelling like pancakes when I saw it. In our driveway. A car. Not just any car, a Honda Civic, metallic blue, brand new. And Ethan was standing next to it, holding keys, while Mom and Dad stood on the porch beaming like he'd just won the Nobel Prize. I parked on the street because there was no room in the driveway anymore, got out slowly, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. Ethan saw me first. Amber, check it out. He was grinning, genuinely, purely happy, and why wouldn't he be? He had a new car. Isn't it awesome? He ran his hand along the hood like it was a lover. Dad helped me get it. 2019 Honda Civic, only 8,000 miles. Previous owner was an old lady who barely drove it. I walked closer, my legs felt disconnected from my body. Mom was crying happy tears, actually crying. Our baby has his first real car. Dad had his arm around her, steadying her because she was still weak from her procedures, but he was smiling too, proud. How much? My voice came out wrong, too flat, too cold. Ethan didn't notice. 12,000, but Dad negotiated it down from 13,500, got an amazing deal. The payments are only payments. Dad finally looked at me, really looked at me, and there it was again, that flicker in his eyes. We co-signed for him, Dad said. He got approved for an auto loan. The monthly payments are manageable. How much down? I couldn't stop myself from asking, even though I already knew, even though my heart was already breaking. That's not really, Dad started. How much? Ethan jumped in, oblivious. 3,000. Dad covered it as an early birthday present. My birthday's not until November, but Dad said this was too good a deal to pass up, so we did it now. $3,000. $3,000. I looked at Dad, he looked away. Mom was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, going on about how grown-up Ethan was, how responsible he'd been, how proud she was. When I asked, when did you buy this? Thursday, Ethan said. Why, you jealous? He said it teasingly with a laugh because we'd always had that kind of relationship, playful sibling rivalry. But I couldn't laugh, couldn't even pretend to smile. Thursday. 2 days after Dad told me we couldn't afford $340 for my textbooks. That's great, I managed. Congratulations, Ethan. Then I walked into the house before anyone could see my face. I made it to my room before the first sob broke free. $3,000. They had $3,000. For Ethan's car, for his convenience, for his want. But they couldn't spare $340 for my needs. I pressed my face into my pillow and screamed, actually screamed, Everything I couldn't say, everything I couldn't express, everything that was tearing me apart from the inside, it all came out in that muffled, desperate sound. When I finally stopped, my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen and I felt hollow. There was a knock on my door. Amber, Mom's voice weak but concerned. "Honey, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. If I opened my mouth, I'd say something I couldn't take back. "Amber, I know you're upset. Please open the door." I stayed silent. "It's not what you think," she continued through the door. "Your brother needed a car. His Honda finally died completely and he has that internship starting next month and he can't keep borrowing our cars because your father needs his for work and I have my appointments." His Honda. Ethan had a car, an old one, yes, a 2003 Honda that broke down constantly and cost a fortune in repairs, but he had a car. He had transportation. I had transportation too, until I spent my last dollar fixing it so I could get to work. "And this was a special circumstance," Mom went on. "The seller was moving out of state and needed to sell quickly. If we'd waited, someone else would have bought it. These opportunities don't come around often. But opportunities for my education, those could wait. Please say something, honey, you're scaring me." I got up and opened the door. Mom stood there looking frail in her bathrobe, worry etched across her face. "I'm fine," I said. "I'm happy for Ethan." "You don't look happy." "I'm tired, Mom. I just worked a double shift. Can I please just rest?" She studied me for a long moment, and I saw the moment she decided to let it go, because dealing with my feelings was harder than pretending everything was fine. "Of course, get some rest, sweetheart," she kissed my forehead, "and try to be excited for your brother. This is a big moment for him." She walked away and I closed my door. Then I sat down at my desk and cried again, quieter this time until I had no tears left. Dinner that night was unbearable. Everyone was talking about the car. Ethan was explaining all the features, the backup camera, the Bluetooth connectivity, the fuel efficiency. Dad was giving him advice about maintenance and insurance. Mom was asking about color options for seat covers. I pushed food around my plate and said nothing. "Amber, you've barely eaten," Mom noticed. "Are you feeling all right?" "Just tired." "You work too much," she said. "You should cut back on your shifts. Senior year is important. You need to focus on your studies." The irony was so thick I almost choked on it. "I need the money," I said quietly. "For what?" Ethan asked. "You already have a car." I looked at him, my little brother, 2 years younger than me, a sophomore in college, still living at home to save money. The golden child who never had to worry about anything because Mom and Dad always made sure he was taken care of. "Books," I said. "I need money for textbooks." "Oh, right," he nodded like he understood. "Yeah, textbooks are expensive. I spent like $600 last semester, but most professors don't even use them, so now I just wait to see if I actually need them before buying." "That doesn't work for high school," I said. "We use them every day." "Can't you get them from the library?" "They don't have AP textbooks." "What about used ones online?" "That's what the $340 is for, used books." Dad shifted in his seat. He'd been quiet, letting the conversation flow around him. "You'll get your books," he said finally, "one way or another." "How?" I looked directly at him. "How will I get them if we can't afford them?" "Amber," Mom said, her voice carrying a warning, "don't start." "Start what?" "Asking legitimate questions about my education." "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I felt something dangerous rising in my chest, something that wanted to explode. Because from where I'm sitting, I gave this family $600 when Mom needed it. I spent my last $290 fixing my car so I could get to work. And when I asked for help with $340 for textbooks I need to graduate, to get into college, to have any kind of future, I was told we couldn't afford it. The table went silent. "But somehow," I continued, my voice shaking now, "somehow we could afford a $3,000 down payment on a car." "That's different," Dad said. How is it different?" "Ethan needed." "I need too," the words burst out of me. "I need textbooks, I need to be able to study, I need to have the same opportunities as everyone else in my classes. How is that less important than Ethan wanting a newer car?" He didn't want it, Mom said sharply. He needed it. His old car was unreliable. So is mine. Mine breaks down constantly, but I fixed it with my own money because I didn't want to burden anyone. Watch your tone, Dad warned. Or what? I was standing now, though I didn't remember getting up. You'll ground me, take away my privileges. Which ones exactly? Because from where I'm standing, I don't seem to have any. Amber, that's enough. It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. Do you know how many shifts I've worked, how many hours I've spent on my feet, exhausted, in pain, just to earn money that I then gave to this family? And the one time I ask for help, I'm told we're too broke. But we're not too broke for Ethan. We're never too broke for Ethan. That's not fair, Ethan said quietly. He looked genuinely hurt. I didn't ask for this to happen. And that broke something in me because he was right. He didn't ask for this. He didn't orchestrate our parents' favoritism. He was just the beneficiary of it. You're right, I said, my voice dropping. You didn't. I'm sorry, Ethan. This isn't about you. I looked at my parents, but it is about you, both of you. Go to your room, Dad said, now. Gladly. I left the table, the food I couldn't eat anyway, left them sitting there in uncomfortable silence. But I heard it. As I was halfway up the stairs, I heard Mom say it. She's being selfish, after everything we've done for her. I kept walking. That night I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and started doing research, real research, into every possible option for getting those textbooks. Student loans, I was only 17, couldn't apply without a cosigner. Crowdfunding, too embarrassing, too public, people would ask questions. Scholarships, none available for textbook costs specifically. But then I found something, a program through a local nonprofit that provided educational resources to students in financial need. The application was simple: proof of enrollment, a letter explaining the situation, and documentation of financial hardship. I filled it out immediately, explained everything: the medical bills, the car repairs, the textbooks I needed. I didn't mention Ethan's car, didn't mention the $3,000, just stated the facts about my own situation. Submitted it at 11:47 p.m. Then I researched more, found 2 more programs, applied to both. By 1:30 a.m., I had applied to 4 different educational assistance programs and sent emails to all my future teachers explaining my situation, asking if there were any alternatives to purchasing the textbooks, classroom copies I could use during study periods, PDF versions, anything. I was proactive, I was resourceful. I was doing exactly what Dad had told me to do. Figure it out myself. 3 days later, Ethan knocked on my door. Can we talk? I was lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling, too tired to move. Sure. He came in and sat on the floor, leaning against my bed. We used to sit like this when we were kids, talking about everything and nothing. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For, I don't know, the car, the timing, all of it. I sat up, looked at him. He looked miserable. It's not your fault, Ethan. Feels like it is, the way you looked at me when you saw the car. He shook his head. I've never seen you look at me like that before. Like what? Like you hated me. My throat tightened. I don't hate you. I could never hate you. But you're mad at me. I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad at the inequality. I'm mad that I've spent my entire life being told to be responsible and independent while you get everything handed to you. I paused. But I'm not mad at you. You didn't create this dynamic. He was quiet for a moment. I could give you money for your books. No. I have some saved. Ethan, no, that's your money. You earned it. You earned yours too, then you gave it away to help Mom. Because she needed it. And you need textbooks, so let me help. I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to say yes so badly, but accepting money from my little brother felt like admitting defeat in a way I wasn't ready to accept. I appreciate it, I said carefully, really, but I need to handle this myself. Why does everything have to be so hard for you? I didn't have an answer to that. He sighed and stood up. The offer stands anytime, just say the word. After he left, I cried again, but this time it was different, because knowing that Ethan saw it, that he understood it, that he cared, that meant something. even if it didn't change anything. 1 week before school started, I got my first response. From the Riverside Educational Foundation. My application for emergency textbook assistance had been approved. They would provide up to $250 in educational materials. I sat in my car in the Morrisons parking lot, reading the email 3 times to make sure it was real. $250. Not enough for everything, but enough to get started, enough to buy the most critical books, enough to prove that I could do this. I cried then too, but these were different tears, relief tears, maybe everything will be okay tears. I had $147 saved from my recent shifts. Combined with the $250 grant, I'd have $397, more than enough for the $340 I needed. I did it. Without my parents, without their help, without their money. I figured it out. That night at dinner, I told them. I got a grant, I announced, for my textbooks, $250 from an educational foundation. Mom looked up from her plate. That's wonderful, honey. Congratulations, Dad said. That was it, that was the entire response. No questions about how I found it, no interest in what I'd had to do to get it, no acknowledgement that I'd been forced to search for outside help because my own family wouldn't provide it. Just simple congratulations, then back to their food. Ethan was the only one who smiled at me, really smiled, proud and happy and understanding. That's awesome, Amber, seriously. Thanks. The rest of the meal continued in silence. Or rather, Mom and Dad talked about their day, about bills, about some issue with the air conditioning, about everything. Except what had just happened. I was invisible again. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. This wasn't about the money. It had never been about the money. It was about what the money represented: priority, value, love. And in that equation, I didn't measure up. School started. I had my textbooks, all of them. I'd even been able to buy the AP Calc book new with the access code. I showed up to first period prepared, organized, ready. And do you know what the worst part was? Nobody knew, nobody understood what I'd gone through to be there, sitting at that desk with those books. The panic, the fear, the humiliation, the betrayal, it was all invisible. I looked like every other student. But I wasn't. Because while they'd spent their summer at the beach or hanging out with friends or sleeping in, I'd spent mine working double shifts and begging for help and learning exactly where I stood in my family's hierarchy. And I'd learned it well. During lunch, I sat in the library instead of the cafeteria, started looking up college scholarships, full rides, anything that would get me out of that house and into a future where I didn't have to choose between my education and my family's priorities. Because I was done choosing. From now on, I was choosing myself. But here's the thing about realizations like that, about making decisions to prioritize yourself, about drawing lines in the sand. Life has a way of testing them. And my test came exactly 2 weeks into senior year on a Tuesday afternoon when I came home to find my parents sitting in the living room with expressions that made my blood run cold. Amber, Dad said, we need to talk. I set down my backpack. About what? About your attitude lately, about your behavior. My behavior. You've been distant, Mom said, cold ever since the situation with Ethan's car. The situation, that's what we were calling it now. I've been busy, I said, school, work, college applications. You've been punishing us, Dad corrected, and it needs to stop. Something dark and hot flared in my chest. Punishing you. You're upset because we couldn't help with your books. Couldn't or wouldn't. Amber, Mom's voice was sharp. We've explained this. We had other financial obligations. Sometimes life doesn't give us what we want when we want it. You need to learn to accept that. I did accept it. I found another solution. By making us feel guilty, Dad said. By sulking and being dramatic and making everyone uncomfortable. I stared at them. You feel guilty. We feel like we're walking on eggshells in our own home, Mom said, because you can't let this go. Let what go exactly? The fact that you had $3,000 for Ethan but not $340 for me. That's not Dad started. It is, it's exactly what it is, and you know it, and the fact that you feel guilty about it tells me that you know it too. My voice was rising, I couldn't stop it. But instead of acknowledging it, instead of apologizing or trying to make it right, you're attacking me for having feelings about it. Watch your tone. No, I'm done watching my tone. I'm done making myself smaller so you can feel better about your choices. Mom stood up. That is enough. You are being incredibly disrespectful. And you've been incredibly unfair. My entire life you've treated Ethan and me differently, and I've never said anything because I thought it would get better. I thought eventually you'd see me the same way you see him, but you don't, and you never will. That's not true, Dad said, but his voice was weak. Isn't it? When was the last time you took me car shopping? When was the last time you offered to help me with something I needed? When was the last time you looked at me with the same pride you look at Ethan with? Silence. That's what I thought. I grabbed my backpack and headed for the stairs. Where are you going? Mom demanded. To my room to study, using the books I paid for myself. I left them standing there. And as I climbed those stairs, I heard Dad say something that broke my heart all over again. She'll get over it, she always does. That's when I knew. Nothing was going to change. Not unless I changed it myself. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I'd never felt before. I was done waiting for my parents to see me, done hoping they'd suddenly realize what they'd been doing, done making excuses for them. If I wanted a future, I had to build it myself, completely, without expecting anything from them. So I made a plan. A real one, not just about textbooks or college applications, about everything. I sat at my desk before school and opened a new document on my laptop, typed out a title, Operation Independence. Then I started listing everything I needed to do. Apply to every scholarship possible, focus on full rides. Increase work hours without sacrificing grades. Open my own bank account when they couldn't. Access. Research financial aid options that didn't require parent involvement. Build an emergency fund, minimum $2,000 by graduation. Get accepted to a college far enough away that living at home wasn't an option. I stared at that list for a long time. It felt like I was planning a divorce from my own family. But what choice did I have? I started with the bank account. That Saturday, I went to a different bank than the one my parents used, one across town where nobody knew our family. Walked in during my lunch break from Morrison's, still wearing my uniform, smelling like coffee and bacon. The banker who helped me was a woman named Patricia, probably in her 50s, with kind eyes and a professional smile. I want to open a checking account, I told her, just in my name. Are you 18? Almost. I turn 18 in 6 weeks. She nodded slowly. Unfortunately, you'll need a parent or guardian as a joint account holder until then. My stomach dropped. There's no other way. Not for a checking account, but, she leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. You could open a savings account. Those don't require joint holders for minors in some cases, and at 18 you can convert it to checking. Will my parents have access to it? No, it would be solely in your name. Then yes, please, a savings account. She walked me through the paperwork. I deposited $140, everything I'd earned in the past week minus what I needed for gas and food. When she handed me the temporary debit card, I felt like I was holding freedom. Can I ask you something? Patricia said as I was gathering my things. Sure. Is everything okay at home? The question caught me off guard. I must have looked startled because she quickly added, I'm sorry, that's not my business. It's just, I have a daughter about your age. And the way you're doing this, opening an account they won't know about, making sure you have control, it reminds me of how she acted before she told us about some problems she was having. For a moment, I considered lying, saying everything was fine. But I was so tired of lying. It's complicated, I said quietly. They're not bad people, they have priorities, and I'm learning to accept that I'm not always one of them. Patricia's expression shifted to something that looked like recognition, like she understood exactly what I wasn't saying. "Well," she said, sliding her business card across the desk, "if you ever need anything, advice, resources, even just someone to talk to, you call me, okay?" I took the card, "Thank you." Walking out of that bank, I felt different, lighter maybe, or heavier, I couldn't tell which. But I felt like I'd taken the first real step towards something that was mine. The scholarship applications consumed every free moment I had. I'd come home from school, grab a snack, then spend 3 to 4 hours researching and filling out applications before my shifts at Morrison's. After work, I'd come home and do it again until midnight or later. The essay questions were brutal. Describe a challenge you've overcome. Tell us about a time you showed leadership. What makes you deserving of this scholarship? How was I supposed to answer these honestly without sounding bitter, without explaining that the challenge I was overcoming was being seen by my own parents, that the leadership I'd shown was taking care of myself because nobody else would? I tried to write it honestly at first, poured everything into an essay about family dynamics and feeling invisible and learning to advocate for myself. Then I read it back and realized how it sounded. Angry, resentful, like I was playing a victim. So I deleted it and started over. This time I focused on the positive spin, about being self-motivated, about learning financial responsibility early, about understanding the value of hard work. All true, just not the whole truth. The essays took forever, each one had to be perfect, not just grammatically but emotionally. They had to make the scholarship committee see me as deserving without seeing me as desperate. It was exhausting. 3 weeks into this routine, Mrs. Chen, my AP English teacher, asked me to stay after class. "Amber, is everything all right?" I was packing up my books, already mentally calculating whether I had time to grab food before my shift. "Yes, ma'am, why?" "You fell asleep during the discussion today." Heat flooded my face. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean." "I'm not angry, I'm concerned." She sat on the edge of her desk, studying me with an expression that reminded me of Patricia at the bank. "You're one of my best students, your essays are exceptional, your analysis is sharp, and your participation is usually excellent, but lately you seem depleted." Depleted, that was exactly the right word. "I'm fine," I said automatically, "just busy with college applications and work." "How many hours are you working?" "I'm about 30 a week." Her eyebrows rose. 30 on top of 4 AP classes. "I need the money." "For what, if you don't mind me asking?" I hesitated, but Mrs. Chen had always been kind to me, always encouraged me, and I was so tired of holding everything inside. "College," I said, "application fees, deposits, first semester costs. I'm trying to get scholarships, but even with a full ride, there are expenses, and I can't ask my parents for help, so I'm doing it myself." "Why can't you ask them?" The question was gentle, not accusatory, but it still hurt. "Because they don't have it," I said, which was easier than explaining the truth. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a moment. "Have you talked to your guidance counselor about fee waivers? Most colleges offer them for students with financial need." "I didn't know that." "Come to my classroom during lunch tomorrow. We'll go through your application list together and figure out what resources you're eligible for." She paused. "And Amber, you don't have to do this alone. There are people who want to help you. Let them." I nodded, not trusting my voice. But walking out of that classroom, I realized something. I'd been so focused on proving I could do everything myself that I'd forgotten there was a difference between asking my parents for help and accepting help from people who actually wanted to give it. Mrs. Chen kept her word. The next day during lunch, she pulled up my college list and went through it systematically, showed me how to apply for fee waivers, explained which schools had the best financial aid packages, even helped me reframe some of my scholarship essays to be more compelling. "You're an exceptional student, Amber. These schools would be lucky to have you." "Thank you," I whispered. "Have you thought about where you want to go, if money wasn't an issue?" I'd thought about it constantly. "Somewhere far," I admitted, "not because I hate it here, but because I need space, distance, a chance to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be what everyone else needs me to be." She nodded like she understood completely. That's healthy and smart. Over the next few weeks, Mrs. Chen became more than just a teacher. She became an advocate. She wrote recommendation letters that made me cry when she showed them to me, connected me with alumni from various colleges who could give me advice, even helped me prepare for interviews. And she never once made me feel like I was asking too much. That's when I realized this was what support looked like, real support, not conditional, not comparative, not dependent on whether helping me inconvenience someone else. Just genuine, unconditional belief in my potential. It was everything I'd wanted from my parents. And it hurt that I had to find it elsewhere. At home, things got worse. Not dramatically, not with big fights or screaming matches, but with 1,000 small cuts that added up to something unbearable. Like when Ethan got accepted into a summer research program that cost $2,000 and Dad found the money somehow. It's an investment in his future, Mom explained when she saw my face. This program could lead to job opportunities. Or when they took Ethan out to celebrate his Dean's List achievement dinner at the nicest restaurant in town, dessert, the whole thing. But when I made honor roll for the 6th consecutive semester, I got a good job, honey, and nothing else. We celebrated you last time, Dad said when I pointed it out. We can't go out to eat every time someone does well in school. Except we apparently could for Ethan. Or when I asked if they could help with my SAT prep course fee $150 that would significantly improve my chances at scholarships, and was told money's tight right now. But 2 days later, Mom bought Ethan a new laptop because his old one was running slow. He needs it for school, she said. So did I, but somehow, my needs never qualified as urgent. The worst part wasn't even the inequality anymore. It was the gaslighting. Because every time I pointed out the disparity, I was told I was being dramatic, oversensitive, that I was imagining things or keeping score inappropriately. We love you both equally, Mom insisted. Just because we handle things differently doesn't mean we love you less. But love isn't just a feeling, it's actions, it's priorities, it's showing up. And they weren't showing up for me. In October, I got my first college acceptance. University of Portland, with a partial scholarship that covered 60% of tuition. I was sitting in my car after my shift at Morrison's when I got the email. Read it 3 times to make sure it was real, then I screamed. Actually screamed with joy, alone in my car in the parking lot because I'd done it. Someone wanted me, someone saw my potential, someone believed I was worth investing in. I drove home going exactly the speed limit because my hands were shaking too badly to go faster. Burst through the door and found my parents in the living room watching TV. I got in, I announced, University of Portland with a scholarship. Mom looked up, smiled. That's wonderful, honey. Congratulations, Dad added. Then they went back to watching TV. I stood there holding my phone, waiting for more, waiting for them to ask questions or express pride or show any level of excitement matching mine. Nothing. They're offering me $22,000 a year, I continued, my voice getting desperate. That's huge, that's more than half the tuition, and if I get more scholarships I might be able to afford it without loans. Mom, that's great, sweetie. Ethan came downstairs then, saw my face, and immediately understood. University of Portland, he asked. Yes. He grabbed me in a hug and lifted me off the ground. That's amazing, I'm so proud of you. At least someone was. Mom finally looked away from the TV. Ethan, don't spin her around, you'll hurt your back. Not congratulations on your sister's acceptance, not this is exciting news. Just concern for Ethan's back. I pulled away from my brother and headed for the stairs. Where are you going? Mom called. To my room. But we're about to have dinner. I'm not hungry. I locked my door and called Mrs. Chen, even though it was 7 p.m., even though she was probably with her family. She answered on the second ring. University of Portland, I said when she picked up. I got in with a $22,000 scholarship. Her scream of excitement was everything my parents' reaction wasn't. Amber, that's incredible, I'm so proud of you. We talked for 30 minutes about the acceptance, about the program, about what this meant for my other applications. She was genuinely thrilled, genuinely invested in my success. When I finally hung up, I sat on my bed and cried. Because I'd gotten into college with a significant scholarship, and the first person I'd wanted to call wasn't my parents. That realization hurt more than anything else had. November brought my 18th birthday. I woke up that morning with a strange feeling in my chest. Not excitement exactly, more like significance. Today I became an adult legally. Today I officially had autonomy. There was a card on the kitchen table when I came down for breakfast. Generic birthday card with a $50 check inside and a note, "Happy birthday, Amber, love, Mom and Dad." $50. For Ethan's 18th birthday 2 years ago, they'd thrown a party, invited 30 people, rented a pavilion at the park, had it catered. For mine, I got a card with $50. "We thought maybe you could take yourself out to dinner," Mom said when she came into the kitchen, "somewhere nice." "Thanks," I said, folding the check and putting it in my pocket. "And tonight we can have cake. I picked up your favorite chocolate with raspberry filling." "Actually, I have plans tonight." She looked surprised. "Plans with who?" "Some friends from school. We're going to dinner and a movie." This was half true. Mrs. Chen had invited me to dinner with her family and I'd accepted. It felt less pathetic than admitting I didn't have plans. "Oh," Mom looked almost disappointed. "Well, I guess we can do cake tomorrow." "Sure." I grabbed a granola bar and headed out, not wanting to prolong the interaction. At school, Ethan found me at lunch. He had a gift bag with him. "Happy birthday, sis." Inside was a leather journal, expensive, beautiful, with my initials embossed on the cover. "For all your college essays and applications," he explained. "I know you're always writing stuff down and I thought you might like something nice." I stared at the journal, then at him. "This is, Ethan, this must have cost." "Don't worry about it, you deserve something good." I hugged him, held on maybe a little too long. "Thank you," I whispered, "this means everything." "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "about all of it. I wish I could fix it." "It's not yours to fix." But I appreciated that he wanted to. That evening, dinner with Mrs. Chen's family was exactly what I needed. Her husband made jokes, her teenage son talked about his own college application stress, her daughter, who was in middle school, asked me about my favorite books. They sang happy birthday, gave me a small gift card to a bookstore, treated me like I mattered. Mrs. Chen pulled me aside while her husband was cutting the cake. "I know this year has been hard for you," she said. "And I know it's not my place, but I want you to know that you're going to be fine, better than fine. You're going to thrive in college, you're going to find your people. And one day you're going to look back on this time and realize how much strength you built." I wanted to believe her. "What if I can't afford it?" I whispered. "What if the scholarships aren't enough?" "Then we'll find more scholarships, more grants, more options. You're not doing this alone, Amber, I promise." When I got home that night, the house was dark. Everyone was already asleep. There was a slice of cake in the fridge with a sticky note, "Happy birthday." I threw it away. The real shift happened in December. I'd been applying to scholarships obsessively, every single one I was remotely qualified for. My essay answers were polished to perfection, my applications were flawless. And it started paying off. First, a $1,000 scholarship from a local business organization. Then $2,500 from a community foundation. Then $5,000 from a Women in STEM program. Then the big one, a $15,000 renewable scholarship from a national education foundation. By mid-December, I'd secured $23,500 in scholarships for my first year of college. Combined with the University of Portland offer, I was looking at having almost my entire first year covered. I was doing it. Actually doing it. I updated my savings account, now at $1,847 from my Morrison's shifts and birthday money. Another few months and I'd hit my $2,000 goal. For the first time since this all started, I felt something that resembled hope. But then Christmas happened. We'd never been a huge Christmas family, decent gifts, nice dinner, some traditions, nothing extravagant. That year, I didn't expect much. I'd already gotten myself the best gift possible, a path to college that didn't depend on my parents. Christmas morning, we opened presents in the living room, the usual routine. Ethan got a new MacBook Pro $2,000, noise-canceling headphones $350, a smartwatch $400, various clothes and smaller items. Total value approximately $3,000 plus dollars. I got a sweater from Target, a set of bath products, a $75 gift card to Starbucks, a pair of fuzzy socks. Total value maybe $120. I stared at the pile of gifts in front of Ethan, then at my small stack. Wow, Ethan said, looking uncomfortable. This is too much. You needed a new laptop, Mom said, and you've been working so hard at school, you deserve it. I'd been working hard too, harder probably. Between school, work, and scholarship applications, I barely slept. But nobody mentioned that. Thanks for the gifts, I said quietly. Dad finally looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it: guilt, awareness, understanding that this was wrong. But he didn't say anything. Neither did Mom. They knew, they absolutely knew what they were doing and how it looked and how it made me feel. And they were doing it anyway. That's when something inside me finally, permanently broke. Not with a dramatic snap, but with a quiet certainty. I was never going to get what I needed from them, no matter what I did, no matter how good I was, no matter how hard I tried. I was never going to be Ethan. And I needed to stop hoping I would be. That afternoon, while everyone was napping off the big Christmas lunch, I went for a drive. Ended up at a park near my elementary school, sat on a swing and just thought about everything that had happened, about who my parents were versus who I'd needed them to be, about the fact that I'd spent 18 years trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. And I made a decision. I was done. Not done with them completely, they were still my parents and I didn't hate them, but done trying to make them see me, done hoping they'd change, done letting their inability to prioritize me dictate my self-worth. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, looked at my savings, $1,847. Then I opened my scholarship tracking spreadsheet, $23,500 secured with 15 applications still pending. I had everything I needed to leave, to build a life that didn't depend on their validation or their money or their approval. So that's what I was going to do. I swung on that swing until the sun started setting, making plans for my future, a future where I was the priority, where my education mattered, where I wasn't constantly measuring myself against someone else and coming up short. When I finally drove home, it was dark. Mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Where were you? We were worried. I needed air. On Christmas. Especially on Christmas. She didn't ask what I meant, didn't want to know. That was fine. In 6 months I'd be gone, off to college, starting fresh. And she wouldn't understand why until it was too late. January brought college decision season into full swing. I got 4 more acceptances, each with varying scholarship packages. University of Washington, 75% tuition covered. Oregon State, 50% tuition covered. Seattle University, 80% tuition covered. Reed College, 90% tuition covered. Plus my original University of Portland acceptance with 60% covered. I had options, real options. Mrs. Chen helped me compare the financial aid packages, the programs, the opportunities each school offered. Reed is academically the strongest, she noted, and with 90% covered plus your external scholarships, you'd have very little debt. It's also in Portland, only 3 hours from home. She looked at me, and that's a problem. I wanted distance, space to become someone other than the invisible daughter. Amber, you could go to school on the moon and you'd still be pro. Assessing this family dynamic, geography isn't going to resolve what you're feeling. She was probably right. But 3 hours felt too close, close enough that my parents might expect me to come home on weekends, close enough that I couldn't fully separate. What about University of Washington? I asked. Seattle's 5 hours away. Also a great program, slightly less scholarship money but still very manageable with your external awards. I thought about it. Seattle, big city, far enough for real independence but close enough that I wasn't completely alone. I think that's the one, I said. University of Washington. Mrs. Chen smiled. Then let's make it happen. I didn't tell my parents I'd made my decision until mid-February. We were at dinner, one of the rare occasions we all sat down together anymore. I've decided on a college, I announced. Everyone looked up. University of Washington, I'm accepting their offer. Seattle, Mom said, that's so far. 5 hours. Exactly, too far to come home on weekends. That's kind of the point. Dad frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I need independence, space, a chance to figure things out on my own. You can do that at a school closer to home, Mom argued. University of Portland is excellent and it's only 3 hours. I don't want to go to University of Portland, I want to go to University of Washington. But we could visit you more easily if you were closer. When have you ever visited me anywhere? The table went silent. That's unfair, Dad said. Is it? When was the last time you came to watch me at work, or attended one of my academic awards ceremonies, or showed any interest in my life beyond surface-level questions? Amber, Mom started. I'm going to UW, I've already accepted, the decision is made. Ethan was watching me with something that looked like pride. How are you planning to pay for it? Dad asked. We can't afford. I know, I've secured $23,500 in external scholarships plus the university is covering 75% of tuition. Between that and my savings, I'll be fine, I'm not asking you for money. $23,500, Mom looked shocked. In scholarships? Yes, I've been applying since August. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never asked, I thought. I'm telling you now, I said instead. Dad was quiet. Then you've really thought this through. I've had to, nobody else was going to think it through for me. The words hung in the air. We would have helped, Mom began. No, you wouldn't have, or you would have, but only after I proved I was desperate enough, only after I exhausted every other option, only after Ethan's needs were met first. I stood up, and I'm tired of waiting for my turn, so I made my own turn. I left the table before anyone could respond. Behind me, I heard Ethan say quietly, she's right, you know. And for once, nobody argued with him. The next few months were a blur of preparation. I registered for classes, sorted out housing, applied for work-study programs, did everything necessary to ensure my transition to college was smooth. My parents didn't offer to help with any of it. Not with shopping for dorm supplies, not with planning the move, not with anything. It was like they'd accepted that I was leaving and decided to emotionally check out before I physically left. Fine by me. Ethan helped though. He drove me to Target to get storage containers and bedding, helped me research what I actually needed versus what was unnecessary, even gave me his old mini fridge that still worked perfectly. You sure? I asked when he offered it. Yeah, I barely use it anyway, you'll need it more than me. We loaded it into my car, and he paused before shutting the trunk. I'm going to miss you, he said. I'm going to miss you too. Are you ever coming back, like for breaks and stuff? I wanted to lie and say yes automatically, but I respected him too much for that. I don't know, I admitted. I think I need time away, real time, to figure out who I am when I'm not constantly comparing myself to you or trying to earn our parents' attention. That's not your fault, he said. You know that, right? None of this is your fault. I know, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. He hugged me then, hard. For what it's worth, he whispered, I think you're amazing and brave, and I wish things had been different. Me too. The week before I left for college, Mom tried one last time. She knocked on my door while I was packing, came in without waiting for permission. Can we talk? I didn't stop folding clothes. About what? About us, about how things have been. Okay. She sat on my bed looking uncomfortable. I know you're upset. I'm not upset, Mom, I'm resigned. What does that mean? It means I've accepted reality. You and Dad have priorities, and I've learned to accept that I'm not at the top of that list. It's fine, I've adjusted. That's not true. We love you. I know you love me, but love isn't enough. Love without action, without prioritization, without showing up, it's just a word. We've always shown up for you. No, you haven't. I finally stopped packing and looked at her. You've shown up for Ethan, consistently, repeatedly, without question, but for me, you show up when it's convenient, when it doesn't conflict with his needs, when it doesn't cost you anything. That's not fair. It's completely fair, $3,000 for his car but not $340 for my books, a MacBook for Christmas but I get a Target sweater, celebrating his achievements but treating mine as routine. Don't you see the pattern? She was crying now. We never meant to make you feel less important. But you did, and the fact that you never meant to almost makes it worse, because it means you weren't even aware enough to notice. What can I do? Her voice was desperate. Tell me how to fix this. I wanted to give her a list, concrete actions she could take, but the truth was simpler and more complicated than that. You can't fix it, Mom, not now. The time to fix it was when I was 14 and noticed that Ethan always got first choice. Or when I was 16 and realized I had to earn things he got for free. Or 6 months ago when you chose a car over my education. But that time is gone. So what, you're just giving up on us? No, I'm giving up on expecting you to change. I'm moving forward with the reality of who you are, not the fantasy of who I needed you to be. She stood up, wiping her eyes. I hope you know that this is breaking my heart. Mine broke months ago, I said quietly. I'm just finally healing from it. She left my room without another word. And I went back to packing. Move-in day arrived with a strange mix of excitement and sorrow. Ethan helped me load everything into my car. Mom and Dad stood in the driveway watching. When everything was packed, there was an awkward moment where nobody knew what to say. Dad stepped forward first. Drive safe, call when you get there. I will. Mom hugged me, held on too tight. I love you, Amber, no matter what you think, I love you. I love you too, Mom. And I meant it, but love wasn't enough to heal what was broken. Ethan was the last to hug me. You're going to be amazing, he whispered, and if you need anything at all, you call me, okay? Okay. I got in my car, started the engine, looked at my childhood home one last time. Then I drove away. Toward Seattle, toward my future, toward a life where I was the priority. I didn't look back. But in my rearview mirror, I saw them standing there, Mom crying, Dad looking lost, Ethan waving. And I felt nothing. Not sadness, not relief, just a strange emptiness where all those complicated emotions had been. Maybe that's what healing looked like in the beginning. Just emptiness where the pain used to be. The drive to Seattle took exactly 5 hours and 12 minutes. I listened to music, stopped once for gas and coffee, let myself think about everything and nothing. When I pulled onto campus, when I saw the buildings and the students and the life I was about to start, something shifted. Not dramatically, but definitely. I was here, I'd made it. Against everything, I'd built this opportunity myself. And nobody could take that away from me. My roommate was already moved in when I arrived. Her name was Jessica, she was from California, and she greeted me with a huge smile and an offer to help unpack. Your family didn't come, she asked, noticing I was alone. They couldn't make it, I lied, work stuff. The truth was more complicated. I told them move-in was a week later than it actually was, told them I wanted to settle in alone first, made excuses until they stopped asking. Because I needed this to be mine, just mine. Jessica and I spent the evening setting up our room, talking about majors and hometowns and expectations. She was easy to talk to, funny, kind. When I finally climbed into my dorm bed that night, in a room that was mine, in a school I'd earned, in a future I'd built, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. But peace is fragile. And 3 weeks into my first semester, it shattered. I was walking back from my biology class when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Amber? A man's voice, professional, concerned. Yes. This is Dr. Richardson from Mercy Hospital. I'm calling about your mother. Everything stopped. What happened? She collapsed this morning. She's stable now, but we need to discuss her condition with family members. Your father is here, but he asked me to contact you as well. I'll be there as soon as I can. I hung up and stood in the middle of campus, students flowing around me like water around a stone. Mom collapsed. Mom was in the hospital. Mom needed me. And despite everything, despite the hurt and the anger and the broken promises, my first instinct was to go. Because that's what family meant to me. Even we. And it wasn't reciprocated. I made it to the hospital in 4 hours and 43 minutes. Broke every speed limit, drove through a yellow light that was definitely red, didn't care. Because despite everything, despite the months of hurt and the Christmas that broke me and the countless times they'd chosen Ethan over me, she was still my mother. And I still loved her. Even if that love was complicated and painful and exhausting. I found Dad in the ICU waiting room. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since I'd seen him 3 weeks ago. Ethan sat next to him, head in his hands. Dad. He looked up, relief flooded his face. Amber, thank God. He hugged me, actually hugged me, tight and desperate and real. What happened? I asked. We sat down and he explained. Mom had been feeling off for a few days, tired, dizzy, short of breath. She dismissed it as stress. Then this morning she collapsed in the kitchen. Dad found her unconscious. They're saying it's her heart, Dad said, his voice cracking. Some kind of arrhythmia. They're running tests, but they think she might need surgery. Where is she? ICU. They're only letting immediate family back and only one at a time. Can I see her? They said maybe in an hour. They're stabilizing her. I sat down next to Ethan. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'm glad you're here, he said quietly. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be? The wait was excruciating. Every time a doctor walked by, we'd all tense, hoping for news. Every beep of a monitor made us jump. Time moved like concrete, heavy and slow and suffocating. At some point, Dad went to get coffee, left me and Ethan alone. She's been talking about you, Ethan said. What? Mom, since you left, she's been talking about you constantly, wondering how you're doing, if you're eating enough, if you're making friends. He paused. She misses you. Something bitter rose in my throat. She had 18 years to show me that. I know. And now when she's in the hospital, suddenly I matter. Amber. No, it's true, when everything's fine, I'm invisible, but the moment there's a crisis, suddenly everyone remembers I exist. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. You're right, and it's not fair, but she does love you. She's just terrible at showing it. Being terrible at something doesn't excuse the harm it causes. I know. A doctor appeared then, Dr. Richardson, the one who'd called me, middle-aged, kind face, clipboard in hand. Mr. Patterson. Dad rushed over, coffee forgotten. Ethan and I followed. Your wife is stable. The arrhythmia is under control for now, but she'll need a procedure, a cardiac ablation to correct the electrical pathways in her heart. We can schedule it for later this week. Is it dangerous? Dad asked. All procedures carry risk, but this one is relatively routine. Success rate is around 95%. He paused. She's asking for Amber. Everyone looked at me. Go, Dad said, please. The ICU was cold and sterile and filled with the sounds of machines keeping people alive. Mom was in a private room hooked up to monitors, an IV in her arm. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the strong, stubborn woman who'd raised me. Amber, her voice was weak. I'm here, Mom. I sat in the chair next to her bed, took her hand. It was cold. You came, she whispered. Of course I came. Tears slid down her cheeks. I thought you might not. Why would you think that? Because of everything, because we've been terrible to you, because you have every reason to hate us. I wanted to argue, to say I didn't hate them, but the words stuck in my throat. I don't hate you, I finally said. I'm just hurt and tired and done trying to earn something I should have always had. I'm sorry, she was crying harder now. I'm so sorry, Amber, for all of it, for not seeing you, for not prioritizing you, for making you feel like you didn't matter. These were the words I'd wanted to hear for months, maybe years. But hearing them now in a hospital room while she was scared and vulnerable, it felt hollow, like they were born from fear rather than genuine understanding. Mom. No, please, let me say this. She squeezed my hand. When you left for college, I realized something. You didn't ask us to help you move, didn't ask us to come to orientation, didn't call for 3 weeks, and at first I was angry. I thought you were being spiteful, punishing us. I wasn't. I know, because your father pointed out that you were doing exactly what we'd taught you to do: be independent, handle things yourself, not ask for help. She took a shaky breath. And he was right. We trained you not to need us because we were never there when you did. I couldn't speak, my throat was too tight. The car, she continued, the books, Christmas, all of it. I see it now, how it must have looked, how it must have felt, and I'm ashamed. Why? The question burst out of me. Why did you do it? Why was Ethan always first? She closed her eyes. I don't have a good answer. He's the baby. He's always struggled more in school, needed more attention, more support, and you were always so capable, so independent. We thought you didn't need us the way he did. Everyone needs their parents, Mom, even capable kids. I know that now, but I didn't then, and by the time I realized it, you'd already learned not to ask. She opened her eyes, looking directly at me. Can you forgive me? That was the question, wasn't it? Could I forgive them? Should I? I don't know, I said honestly. I want to, but forgiveness isn't just words, it's action, it's change, and I don't know if you can change. I want to try, we want to try, if you'll let us. I looked at her, really looked at her, saw the fear in her eyes, not just fear of the surgery, but fear of losing me, fear that she'd destroyed something irreparable. Maybe she had. But maybe there was still something worth salvaging. Okay, I said quietly, we can try. She cried harder, relief and gratitude and shame all mixed together. I stayed until she fell asleep, her hand still in mine. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday. I called my professors, explained the situation, got extensions on assignments. Jessica sent care packages and supportive texts. Mrs. Chen called to check on me, offered to help with anything I needed. The people I'd found along the way, they showed up for me in ways my family never had. But now my family was trying, awkwardly, imperfectly, but trying. The night before the surgery, Dad asked if I'd come home with them. Just for dinner, we need to talk, all of us. I agreed, though every instinct told me to protect myself. Dinner was painful. We sat around the same table where I'd been told we couldn't afford my books, where I'd learned about Ethan's car, where I'd had 1,000 small moments of being overlooked. Dad cleared his throat. I want to start by saying that your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking about how we've treated you, about the choices we've made. I stayed silent. We failed you, he continued. Not in the big ways we provided for you, gave you a home, supported your basic needs, but in all the ways that actually matter, we failed. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Your mother's illness made us realize something, Dad went on. Life is short, and the time we have with our children is even shorter. We wasted so much of that time with you, took you for granted, assumed you'd always be there, always be understanding, always be okay. But I wasn't okay, I said. I haven't been okay for a long time. We know, and we're sorry, he looked at Ethan. We're sorry to you too, son, because we did you a disservice by not teaching you independence, by making things too easy, by not holding you to the same standards we held your sister. Ethan blinked. What? It's true, we coddled you, and in doing so, we made Amber invisible. We created a dynamic where she had to be perfect and self-sufficient while you got away with being mediocre and dependent. Dad, Ethan started. No, let me finish. I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because we need to acknowledge what we've done to both of you. We've hurt both of you in different ways. I hadn't thought about it like that, how our parents' behavior had hurt Ethan too, just differently. So what now? I asked. You apologize and everything's supposed to be fine. No, Dad said, we apologize and then we work on changing, on being better, on showing up for you the way we should have all along. How? My voice was hard, skeptical. How are you going to change patterns that have been in place for 18 years? We don't know exactly, Dad admitted. But we're committed to figuring it out, with therapy maybe, with conscious effort definitely, with listening to you about what you need rather than assuming we know. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But belief required trust, and trust required proof. Actions, I said, not words. I need to see actual change before I can believe any of this. Fair enough, Dad said. What can we do right now concretely to start making this right? I thought about it, really thought about it. Stop comparing me to Ethan. Stop treating us like we're in competition. Acknowledge when you're making decisions that affect us differently and make sure those decisions are equitable, not just convenient. Done. And maybe actually ask me about my life, not surface questions but real ones. Show interest in what I'm doing, what I'm learning, what I care about. We can do that. And therapy, family therapy, because there's too much here for us to unpack alone. Dad nodded, already looking into it. I looked at Mom, who'd been quiet this whole time. And you? I want to know you, she said softly. Really know you, not just as my daughter but as a person. I want to understand who you are, what you dream about, what scares you. I want to be someone you call when something good happens, not just when there's a crisis. My eyes burned. That's what I've always wanted. Then let's start over, she said. Not erasing what happened, we can't do that, but building something new, something better. Mom's surgery went well. The procedure took 3 hours. We waited in silence, each lost in our own thoughts, our own fears, our own hopes. When Dr. Richardson came out and said everything had been successful, the relief was overwhelming. We cried, all of us, even Dad, who I'd maybe seen cry twice in my entire life. She'll need rest and monitoring, Dr. Richardson explained, but barring any complications, she should make a full recovery. We could see her in an hour. While we waited, Ethan pulled me aside. Can we talk? Sure. We went to the hospital cafeteria, got terrible coffee, sat at a table in the corner. I've been thinking, he said, about everything, and I want to make some changes too. Ethan, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because Dad was right. They made things too easy for me. I never had to struggle, never had to worry, never had to work as hard as you did, and that's not fair, and it's not healthy. So what are you going to do? Get a job, start paying my own way, stop accepting money from them for things I can handle myself. He paused, and I want to pay you back. For what? The $600, the money you gave them for Mom's medical bills. That wasn't your responsibility. That should have been handled without you having to sacrifice your college savings. Ethan, please, let me do this. I've got money saved from summer work. I want to give you $600, not as charity but as reparations, I guess, for benefiting from a system that hurt you. I stared at him. You're serious? Completely. That's really mature of you. I'm trying to be better, to be worthy of having a sister as amazing as you. I hugged him then, hard. You're pretty amazing too, you know. I'm working on it. Mom came home from the hospital 5 days later. I'd planned to stay for the week, then head back to Seattle, but something had shifted. The conversations we were having, the effort everyone was making, it felt different, real. So I stayed an extra week. Helped Mom recover, cooked meals, sat with her while she rested, and we talked, really talked. About my childhood, about moments I remembered that she'd forgotten, about how small things, comments, decisions, absences had accumulated into something much larger. She listened, actually listened, didn't defend or explain away, just heard me. And slowly, carefully, something started to heal. The night before I went back to Seattle, we had another family dinner. But this time it was different. Dad asked about my classes, specific questions about what I was learning, what I found interesting, what challenged me. Mom wanted to know about my friends, my roommate, what Seattle was like. Ethan told stories about his own college experiences, creating space for me to share mine. It wasn't perfect. Old habits crept in, moments where the attention shifted to Ethan automatically, where I started to fade into the background. But now they noticed, caught themselves, corrected course. "Sorry, Amber," Dad said at one point. "I interrupted you. What were you saying about your biology professor?" Small things but meaningful. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside. "I have something for you." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. "Dad, I can't. It's not charity, it's what we should have been contributing to your education all along. It's a start at making things equitable." He paused. "And there will be more regular contributions, just like we're doing for Ethan." I stared at the check, $5,000, more money than I'd ever held at once. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for giving us another chance, for not giving up on us even when we'd given up on ourselves." Driving back to Seattle this time felt different. Not empty like before, not like I was running away. More like I was moving forward while still being connected, still being seen. I called Mrs. Chen during the drive, updated her on everything. "I'm proud of you," she said, "for setting boundaries, for demanding better, for giving them a chance to change while protecting yourself in the process." "I don't know if it'll last," I admitted. "Maybe it won't. Change is hard and old patterns are stubborn, but you gave them the opportunity. What they do with it is up to them. And if they fail, then you'll know you tried and you'll move forward anyway, because you're strong enough to do this with or without them." She was right. I'd proven that already. The rest of my freshman year was a study in balance. My parents called every week, actually called, not just texted, wanted to hear about my life, my struggles, my victories. They sent care packages, practical things I needed, not just dumb items to check a box. They came to visit in March, drove all the way to Seattle, took me to dinner, met Jessica, toured campus, showed genuine interest in my world. And when Ethan got accepted into a prestigious summer program that cost $3,500, Dad called me first. "I wanted to let you know we're helping him with this. We're covering half and he's covering half from his job. I wanted to be transparent about it and to ask, is there anything you need that we can help with?" The old me would have said no automatically, would have insisted I was fine. The new me said, "Actually, there's a summer research position I applied for. It pays, but I'd need to cover housing in Seattle. It's about $1,800 for the summer." "Done, send us the details." Just like that. It wasn't about the money, it was about being asked, being considered, being seen as equally worthy of investment. Family therapy started in April. Video sessions since I was in Seattle, once every 2 weeks. It was uncomfortable at first, dredging up old hurts, examining painful patterns, holding everyone accountable. But it helped. We learned to communicate better, to recognize when old dynamics were creeping back in, to call each other out with love rather than resentment. The therapist, Dr. Martinez, was excellent. She didn't let anyone off the hook, but she also helped us understand the why behind the behavior. "Your parents grew up in families with very specific expectations about gender roles," she explained one session. "Sons were investment priorities, daughters were expected to be self-sufficient. They've unconsciously replicated those patterns with you and Ethan." Understanding didn't excuse it, but it did help make sense of it. And more importantly, it gave us tools to change it. Summer came. I did the research position, spent 3 months working in a lab, learning techniques, contributing to actual scientific research. My parents visited twice, took me to dinner both times, asked detailed questions about my work, listened to my answers. Ethan came once, stayed for a weekend. We explored Seattle together, went to Pike Place Market, acted like normal siblings without the weight of inequality between us. He'd gotten that job he mentioned, was paying his own car insurance, his own gas, his own entertainment, growing into independence. It's harder than I thought it would be, he admitted over coffee. Having to budget, having to make choices, having to earn things. Welcome to my entire life, I said, but I was smiling. I'm sorry I didn't see it before, how hard you had it. You see it now, that's what matters. Sophomore year started with a clarity I'd never had before. I knew who I was, knew what I was worth, knew what I would and wouldn't accept. And I had a family that was finally showing up for me. Not perfectly, there were still slip-ups, still moments of old patterns emerging, but the difference was the awareness, the effort, the commitment to doing better. In October, we celebrated my 19th birthday. My parents drove to Seattle, took me and Jessica out to dinner at a nice restaurant, gave me thoughtful gifts, things they'd actually listened to me mention wanting. And they sang Happy Birthday with genuine joy, not obligatory performance. It was everything I'd wanted the year before. Better late than never, I guess. Thanksgiving that year, I went home. Actually wanted to go home, which was new. The house felt different, or maybe I felt different in it. We cooked together, all of us. Dad made his famous turkey, Mom handled sides, Ethan and I worked on dessert. And we talked, laughed, shared stories. Like a family. A real family. Not perfect, not without complicated history, but real. During dinner, Dad raised his glass. I want to make a toast to Amber, who taught us what it means to fight for yourself, who showed us through her actions what we'd failed to show her through ours, who gave us a second chance we didn't deserve but will spend the rest of our lives trying to earn. Everyone raised their glasses. To Amber, they echoed. I felt tears threatening. I can't take all the credit. Everyone here has worked hard to make things better. True, Mom said, but you were the catalyst. You set the boundary, you demanded better, and we're all better for it. We clinked glasses and I felt something settle in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. Christmas was different too. The gifts were equitable, thoughtful, balanced. I got a new laptop, my old one was dying, and a beautiful necklace Mom had picked out specifically for me. Ethan got similar value in gifts, things he needed and wanted, but nothing extravagant. No $3,000 imbalances, no disparities that screamed favoritism. Just two kids being treated like they both mattered. We spent the day playing board games, watching movies, being together without tension. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, Mom knocked on my door. Can I come in? Sure. She sat on my bed like she used to when I was little. I want to show you something. She pulled out her phone, opened her photos, scrolled to a folder labeled Amber Memories. Inside were hundreds of photos, me as a baby, as a toddler, through elementary school, middle school, high school, award ceremonies, school plays, random moments. I took these, she said quietly, all of them. I was there, I saw you, I was proud of you, I was terrible at showing it. I looked through the photos, saw myself growing up through her lens. I don't understand, I said. If you saw me, if you were proud, why didn't you show it? Because I'm broken in some fundamental way, she said honestly. Because I was raised to believe that love meant providing for physical needs and that emotional validation made children soft. Because I didn't know how to be different than my own parents were. But you're trying now. I'm trying now because I almost lost you, not physically but emotionally, and I realized that physical presence means nothing without emotional connection. She took my hand. I'm going to keep trying for the rest of my life to be the mother you deserved all along. I know I can't undo the past, but I can shape the future. I'm going to hold you to that, I said. Please do. Spring semester brought new opportunities. I'd applied for a study abroad program, a summer in Costa Rica doing conservation research. Competitive, expensive, unlikely. I got in. The program cost $6,000 total. I had scholarships covering $3,000. I'd saved $1,500. I needed $1,500 more. I called home to share the news, not to ask for money, just to share. That's incredible, Amber, Dad said. Costa Rica, conservation research, this is exactly the kind of opportunity you should be pursuing. Thanks, I'm really excited. I'm going to pick up extra shifts to earn the rest of what I need. How much do you need? 1,500, but I can earn it if I work enough. No, Dad interrupted, we'll cover it. I paused, Dad, you don't have to. We want to. This is exactly what parents should do, invest in their children's opportunities. Let us do this, please. Behind him, I heard Mom say, tell her we're proud of her. Your mother wants you to know she's proud of you. I sat down on my dorm bed, overwhelmed. Thank you, really, this means everything. You mean everything, don't ever forget that. I spent the summer in Costa Rica. Lived in a research station in the rainforest, studied bird populations, learned Spanish, made incredible friends, grew in ways I couldn't have imagined. My parents video called every week, wanted to see the rainforest, hear about my research, share in my experiences. Ethan sent care packages, weird snacks, magazines, letters telling me about his own summer internship. I felt connected to them, part of something loved. It had taken breaking before they saw me. It had taken leaving before they valued my presence. It had taken nearly losing me before they fought to keep me. But now, finally, they were showing up. Junior year. I declared my major environmental science with a focus on conservation biology, exactly what I wanted. I got a research assistant position in a professor's lab, paid position, looked great for grad school applications. I made dean's list both semesters. And my parents celebrated every single achievement, called with congratulations, sent flowers, visited to take me to dinner. Made sure I knew they saw me, they were proud I mattered. Ethan graduated that spring, got a job in his field, moved into his own apartment, started adulting for real. I couldn't have done it without your example, he told me at his graduation party. Watching you fight for yourself, build your own path, refuse to accept less than you deserved, it taught me what I needed to learn. You're doing great, I told him. So are you, better than great, you're amazing. Senior year. I applied to graduate programs, PhDs in conservation biology, top programs around the country. Got accepted to 3 with full funding. Chose University of Washington, decided to stay in Seattle where I'd built a life, found community, become myself. My parents were supportive, didn't pressure me to come closer to home, didn't make it about them. We're so proud of you, Mom said when I told them. A PhD, full funding, following your passion, this is everything we should have been supporting all along. You're supporting it now, that's what counts. Graduation day was perfect. Mom and Dad came, Ethan came. They sat together in the crowd, cheering when my name was called, taking approximately 700 photos. Afterward, we went to dinner, they toasted my achievements, asked about my plans, listened to my dreams. I can't believe you did all this, Mom said at one point. Built this life, earned these opportunities, became this incredible person despite us making it so much harder than it should have been. Not despite you. I corrected, the struggles shaped me, made me strong, made me fight for myself. I wouldn't change it even if I could. Would you forgive us, Dad asked, truly forgive us? I thought about it, really thought about it. 4 years ago I couldn't have, the hurt was too fresh, too deep. But now, yes, I said, I forgive you, not because you've earned it exactly, but because holding on to it doesn't serve me anymore. You've changed, we've all changed, and I want to move forward without carrying all that weight. Mom started crying, happy tears this time. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving us another chance, for not giving up on us, for teaching us how to be better. Thank you for learning, I said. That night, alone in my apartment, I pulled out the journal Ethan had given me for my 18th birthday. The one I'd filled with scholarship essays and college applications and plans for escape. I flipped to the last empty page and wrote, Today I graduated college, summa cum laude, 4 years of growth, struggle, learning, and healing, 4 years of becoming myself. My parents were there, present in every way, physically, emotionally, genuinely. They cheered for me like I was the only graduate in the room, like I mattered more than anything. And maybe I do matters, not more than Ethan. We're not in competition anymore, but equally, differently but equally. 4 years ago, I left home believing I was invisible, that my needs didn't count, that love meant accepting scraps. Today, I know better. Love is action, love is prioritization. Love is showing up even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means acknowledging your failures. My parents failed me for 18 years, but they've spent 4 years learning, changing, trying. And that's enough. Not perfect, not erased, but enough. I'm starting grad school in the fall, PhD in conservation biology, full funding, research I'm passionate about, a future I built myself but don't have to walk alone anymore. I have parents who see me. I have a brother who gets it. I have found family, Mrs. Chen, Jessica, Patricia at the bank, all the people who showed up when my blood family couldn't. And I have myself, the person I fought to become, the person who refused to be invisible. That's the real victory. Not the degree, not the forgiveness, not even the changed relationships. But knowing, truly knowing that I am enough, I always was enough, and I never needed their validation to prove it. I just needed mine. I closed the journal and set it on my shelf. Then I texted my family group chat. Thank you for today, for everything, I love you all. 3 responses came immediately. Dad, we love you too, so proud of you. Mom, my brilliant daughter, my heart is so full. Ethan, you're the best sister anyone could ask for, congratulations, Dr. Amber in progress. I smiled, set my phone down, and looked out at the Seattle skyline. Tomorrow, I'd start packing for my new apartment near campus. Next week, I'd start my research assistantship in the conservation lab. In 3 months, I'd begin my PhD program. But tonight, I'd just sit here, in my own space, in my own life, in my own hard-won peace. Because I'd finally gotten what I'd spent my whole life fighting for. Not their approval, though I had that now. Not their financial support, though that came too. Not even their love, which had always existed somewhere beneath the dysfunction. What I'd fought for, what I'd finally won, was something much more valuable. My own sense of worth. Independent of their recognition, independent of their choices, independent of anything external. I knew I mattered. Not because they finally saw me, but because I finally saw myself. And no one, not my parents, not anyone, could ever take that away from me again. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us most get it wrong. They prioritize the wrong things, miss what matters, fail to see us even when we're standing right in front of them. But that doesn't mean we're invisible. It doesn't mean we don't matter. It doesn't mean we're unworthy of love. It just means they're broken in ways that have nothing to do with us. And the moment we understand that, really understand it, is the moment we become free. Free to demand better, free to set boundaries, free to walk away if necessary. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, they wake up, they see what they've done, they do the work to change. But even if they don't, we'll be okay. Because we've learned the most important lesson of all. We don't need their validation to know our worth. We just need our own.